Hey everybody, Eric Switzer here, joined today by the Gamer's news editor, George Foster.
Hello, how are you all doing?
We're looking at Split Fiction, new game from Hazelight Studios, and if you've played their most recent game, It Takes Two, which I assume a lot of people
Everyone
have, right?
has. Yeah, come on.
Well, then this should look pretty familiar, but also very different. First of all, let me just say, I got to see a bunch of random levels when this was announced at the Game Awards last December. And then I went to this preview. I got to play about 3 hours. Some of the same levels, some new stuff. And wow, I'm not reviewing the game, obviously, but this is like so clearly a game of the year game. I'm
Oh,
like,
go on. Yes.
I mean, yeah, they just Hazelight Studios, they got the sauce, you know? They
And
they
I find
really
that
dialed it in.
I find that so interesting because I've played A Way Out. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that, and that like obviously was the fruit, the seed of where they've gone since. But A Way Out was just kind of fine. Like it had really cool moments and it was an interesting game. But like to go from that to It Takes Two, which was really the nail on their head, to then go on to do even better. That's exciting to me. That's
Well, I
this
think
needs to get.
yeah, the evolution for that studio has been sort of from story focus to gameplay focus, and that's turns out is where their real strengths are. Because if there's one point of criticism here, it's definitely the writing.
Oh god. Okay, so it really is It Takes Two again.
Yeah, a lot of the things I would have said about It Takes Two back then, I will say here. Just really cliche dialogue, really, just archetypal, on the nose stuff.
Did that just
Cringe
happen?
at times, yeah.
Oh.
But I'll give you the quick setup. If you haven't seen this before, so we have these two writers. One is a fantasy writer, one is a sci-fi writer, and they are applying for a job at this meta kind of company, this big tech company that takes stories and turns them into virtual worlds for players. And right at the start of the game, it turns out that they're not the most ethical giant tech corp. Go figure.
Ah, yeah.
And
Okay,
they're not really looking for writers. They're just looking for stories they can steal. And through hijinks, these two get trapped together in a shared version of both of their stories. So basically, what the game is exploring the sci-fi world and the fantasy world, and it sort of alternates level to level, one sci-fi level, one fantasy level, doing the same kind of It Takes Two action platforming, but with like tons and tons of variety, just like changing genres every level, new mechanics, new powers, new ideas, just constantly shifting and changing what kind of game it is. And it's just so dang cool, man.
It does look so dang cool. I've been into it from, all it took was Hazelight saying we're doing another co-op game. I was like, yeah, I'm on board. But that first trailer,
Yeah,
just looked like what we wanted to see. I'm curious though. 3 hours of the game, It Takes Two and A Way Out. They're not super long. That is something that stood out to me. They're good. They're perfectly length, I'd say. But did you feel like that was scratching the surface, or did you feel like, okay, I played a quarter of the game?
well, I really didn't play any full levels.
Again, it was like a swapping around a lot thing.
Jumping around a lot, seeing different kinds of stuff. But that's interesting you say that, because I think the more casual audience often say that It Takes Two is too long.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. For a co-op game, get two people to commit to something that's 15 hours long is can be a lot to ask. I'm not sure if it's exactly 15, but yeah, I mean, hard to say. I have no idea how much of the game I saw. I know that I saw stuff the last time I looked at the game that's different than what I saw this time.
Jesus.
So, and I saw stuff this time that's like the coolest stuff.
Go on,
I mean,
hit me with it. I need to see.
I was playing through these levels like, oh man, I can't wait to write about this one. This is my favorite one. And then the next one was even cooler.
Yeah.
so yeah, like you're watching the footage now. We start at the beginning in the sort of sci-fi world, and that's kind of the first level where you learn the platforming mechanics. And while it's pretty similar to It Takes Two, it's evolved, right? So you've got a dash that if you double press your dash, it turns into a roll. You've got an air dash. I think you had an air dash in It Takes Two, but
I think you did, yeah.
and then you've got a grappling hook. Always.
Always,
That's just
yeah.
core. Yeah. And then you get new abilities on top of that. But it's faster, it's more actiony, there's more cinematic like set piece moments.
Mm.
It's just kind of a more grown up and a bit harder. I got to interview Joseph Ferris, the director of the studio, right? And he agreed. Yeah, this is like a step up. This is a little bit harder than It Takes Two, but I would say if you played It Takes Two, and finished it, you've kind of developed the skills you need to jump into this.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the most interesting point of these games is not you and I being able to play it, because we play a lot of games. It's
Yeah.
playing with the people who don't play games regularly, and that is something that I think has been a sticking point. Since seeing Split Fiction, it does look more difficult, it does look more mechanically involved, so
Yeah,
I am interested to see how that plays out.
So some of the things to highlight, some really great boss fights.
Ooh.
The first sci-fi level, as it progresses, you get your power-ups, and it's the kind of thing just like in It Takes Two where you both have different complementary powers.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so one of you gets like a gravity beam. You can like grab stuff and throw it, and the other one gets a gravity manipulator where you can change basically where the floor is, so you can walk on walls and walk on the ceiling, and you're kind of rotating around. And it's pretty cool. The boss is this big floating ball. It's a parking enforcement, like a police bot.
Okay.
It's a little joke. But it's really cool. Like, you start in a little square arena and it's throwing attacks at you and you have to dodge them. But eventually, one player gravity shifts onto it and is walking around on the ball doing stuff, while the other player is using the gravity beam to pick stuff up and throw it at the ball. And you're sort of like attacking it from two directions at the same time. And then eventually that player goes inside the ball and is like doing stuff in there, and you have to interact with it on the outside with the other characters. So just really clever use of co-op. I think that's my big takeaway, is like just really experimental, clever use of co-op, like really like pushing what you can do in a split screen kind of game, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to keep mentioning It Takes Two. I think it's gonna happen, of course.
Yeah.
But some of the levels there, especially the boss fights, actually, there's one where, to my memory, like Cody can shrink, or is it May? One of them can shrink, and they're inside the boss, as everyone has to survive while they're racing to like pull something out, like that.
That kind of thing.
It's like such a interesting moment, and it kind of sounds like already Split Fiction's realized that and gone, okay, yeah, that's happening all the time.
Yep. Yeah. I did a like Tony Hawk Downhill Jam level.
Oh, yes.
Where you're both doing trick scoring points. It's a competition who can get a better score, and you're doing combos and grinding rails, and it's so impressive how simple and intuitive it is, even though it's always becoming a different thing. Like, every level has to tutorialize, you know. It's like the start of it's like constantly starting a brand new game, because you have to like, okay, now you're playing a skateboarding game, or it's like a hoverboard in this case. But and yeah, you just pick it up immediately. It's like you're already going down the hill, and it's like, how do I ride a skateboard? And it's fine, you can do it, and it feels great, right? That's what's so cool about it. Then I played another level where you have two different powers. You're both balls, okay, and one of you can magnetize onto surfaces, and the other one it's like made of a bunch of tiny robots. What is the cool word for tiny robots?
Microbots.
Microbots. Yeah. You're made of microbots, so you can if the ball needs to get under a really low, like in like a vent, you can split up into the bots and walk, and they all walk together
That's cool.
through the gap, or if you like hit a jump pad, they like turn into like a parachute and you like float. And then by the end of that level, it's this really cool like 2-player pinball sequence where one person is sort of controlling the ball and the other person's controlling the flippers.
Mm.
Um,
This is the struggle in a way of talking about this, is that part of me doesn't even want to know. Like,
I
part of
know,
me is
right?
so like,
Yeah,
great, thanks Eric, thanks for telling me.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
know, but like the creativity of it, I think, is such a
Right.
key part. Like, I'm half jealous, half like, spoilers, you know. I would
Yeah, yeah.
recommend, even after just listening to, I haven't played it myself, but even after listening, I almost want to say, like, shut your ears, tell me no more.
it
Which I
it
think
is
is a
so
strength.
creative. Yeah, and you're right. It's like these aren't like, they're kind of spoilers, I guess, but I do think it is kind of a small taste. One that I'll talk about some of the stuff we saw in that first trailer. That's really fun. So like in more of the fantasy side, right? So there's one level where you both can transform into different fantasy creatures.
Mm.
So one person transforms into a big monkey that can like climb around on stuff and pound on stuff. But they also transform into this like fish thing that can swim really fast. So you've got like a big transform and a small transform, and it's just the triggers. So like left to go small, right to go back to regular, and then right again to go big. And you're just flipping between these different characters
That
to
is wild.
like platform around. Yeah, and the other person, their big one is like Groot, and he can like shoot vines
Mm.
and interact with plants. And then the small one is a fairy that can fly.
See, yeah, this is another one. This is another one of my questions. Is in It Takes Two, there was one character who always had the better power ups. Like, no matter what, you can say it's balanced. They work together. I always felt like if you were playing as May, you got the short end of the stick, and I'm super curious to see if that's the case again, because that was just the thing. People can argue all they like and say, you know, Cody had worse power ups. So I played it twice. No, Cody
Yeah,
had the better
yeah.
power up every time.
Yeah. I think it depends what you like, because so there's this really cool like motorcycle chase sequence where one person is driving and the other person is shooting. And I wouldn't say one is better than the other, you know? It's kind of
Driving.
what
Yeah, no, absolutely driving. There you go. Yeah, I'm mad. I'm certain, because I'm going to be the one
No.
who's stuck with all the shooting stuff and the
Okay. Well,
monkey.
I have to give you this spoiler because it's so good. So
Okay.
during this motorcycle chase, there's a part where you figure out that the bike's gonna detonate. It has like a bomb on it, and you have to like hack it to you know, make sure it doesn't explode. So while one person's driving, the other person is using a phone to like type in a password.
That's cool.
But then it like doesn't work, and it like has a captcha, and then it like auto corrects one of the passwords, and you have to like backspace. And meanwhile, the other person's like doing jumps and dodging explosions, and you're back there like typing on your phone. It's very
again,
funny.
I still say, if you're driving, you're winning. If you're the fairy, you're winning. You know,
Yeah.
It's subjective, of course. Like, I'm mostly joking. You're gonna have a good time no matter what. And I like the sound of that. That's a funny moment. You just spoiled me.
It is very funny, yeah. And then, so they talked about this in the trailer too. So there's like side missions that
I was going to ask about this. Yeah, this is, to my memory, It Takes Two, and A Way Out. The best thing that Hazelight does by far is the little mess around sections. It's the little mini games. It's the little.
So this
run off the
isn't
beaten path.
Yeah, this isn't mini games at all. These are full levels that are optional. But it's kind of weird. I'm not sure why they are optional. It's narratively, the conceit is like one half of the story is this like fully realized created world. Like each person created a sci-fi world and a fantasy world, and then these side missions are like little stories they like were dabbling with, like unfinished scripts, basically, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay,
That's
cool.
the idea. So like the one they showed in the trailers where you're both pigs.
Yeah.
And it's very, very silly. You have to like find apples to open magic doors, and then you go into a meat grinder and become sausages. It's like, it's very silly and a little edgy. Ferris calls those Hazelight moments whenever.
Yeah, he's right. I agree.
Whenever it gets a little goofy and edgy like that.
My wish, not to Split Fiction sounds really great. I'm like so on board, like I've said. But my wish for the next game Hazelight does is just that, like just non-stop. Like think WarioWare,
Yeah.
constant moments, like no narrative linking, because it sounds like they still haven't really done that quite well. But like just random stuff, never know what you're expecting. And I
Yeah,
like that Split Fiction has that still, even if it's got a more like centralized theme. Like It Takes Two was toys, but it was toys around a house. There's always a different area. Split Fiction is like primarily sci-fi fantasy, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting that the story is the weak part of the game, because Joseph Harris is so outspoken, like has really strong views and doesn't mind like telling the media his like strong opinions, right? But then when it comes to the games, like this one has such an obvious commentary on like AI, right? On like artists' work getting stolen from them. And when we were like doing a group interview and somebody brought that up, and he was like, yeah, that's like part of it, but it's really about the relationship between these characters. And it's like they don't want to commit to making the game actually controversial or have an opinion, even though I don't know. These games could be bolder, but it's
almost
an EA
don't care,
co-op.
right? Like I hate to put that at the door. It's like the story's gonna be bad, but I don't even care. But I guess I don't. I guess that's kind of where I stand with it.
And then the level that I don't think we saw in the trailer at all. I don't think we saw anything about this. I could be wrong. I'll have to go back and look. But it's like a twin stick Metroid thing. It's like a side-scrolling, weapon gun sequence where you're shooting blasters and
like Contra.
It's like Contra in a like maze like Metroid level layout.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is that one of the side things, or is that part of the?
I want to say that's just a regular level.
Sounds sci-fi-y.
Yeah. Very cool. Had a pretty good boss fight too. You just shoot this just shower of laser bullets, which is always very fun. Just unlimited ammo, no reloading, just blasting, which I liked. And then I got to do some of the dragon stuff that we saw in the trailer, which was very puzzly, very slow pace. Like one dragon has one power, the other dragon has a different power, and you're combining your powers to like solve puzzles, which was fun. But actually, it was the slowest part of the demo as we sort of puzzled out how to get through it. And I think that's good for the sake of variety. And
yeah, it's gonna be. It can't be non-stop all the time. As much as I literally just said I'd like that, I don't think that works. Like some of the best bits, we've talked about it before, with again It Takes Two, is the big ice level, the big area where you can explore and you slow down a bit and you've just got a power that's less fast paced. Like I think that's important to these games.
Yeah.
Even if I'm kind of confused why the dragons would be the slow part of that. I'm imagining destruction and flying.
Overall, the fantasy stuff seemed more puzzle focused, and the sci-fi stuff seemed more action focused. That's kind of what I've seen so far. But yeah, I mean, I know it's great. I'll call my shot on this one. Like, if It Takes Two is Game of the Year, and this is a better It Takes Two, then it's sort of undeniable. Like, I haven't played the whole game. It might fall apart. It might have pacing issues, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like it's gonna be great.
And I mean, it seemed like that from the start. But every time you've talked about it, you've seemed more and more excited. So I'm right there with you. I can't wait.
Yeah, I have a lot of faith in this one, and it's coming out real soon.
Next month, March 6th.
Yep. So look forward to that. We have a full preview linked down in the description. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.